Hello. Um, Once again, I find myself bringing up a video about racial issues. And this is not something I would particularly want to talk about. It's one of those things that I feel, well, if you don't talk about it that much, then it's going to be less promoted as an issue. But it's hard to avoid because it's something that keeps coming up. And I'm talking about what I consider to be the politicization of the world of entertainment, notably regarding racial issues in the world of acting. Now, in the last few years, this has been a very topical issue in the world of entertainment. We saw the Oscars So White controversy, um, and it seems to be that this is just the latest manifestation of um, a sort of politicization of every single aspect of life. What I mean by that is that it seems to me there are people out there who want to find offense or they want to find some sort of conspiracy in every single thing. They want to find racism in everything. And I just find it very frustrating because the cinema, as we say in the UK, movie theatre to my American viewers, is one of the few places that you can go to just escape from the world, to escape from the stresses and the pressure of everyday life. So people go to the cinema to relax. They go to watch a film to relax, to escape, to think. But that's the point. It is an escape. So when you see certain actors constantly pushing this, frankly, what I would consider a victimhood agenda, it gets very tiresome. It gets very tiresome. I'm not saying that there is not that the world of acting and the world of showbiz is perfect. That has no faults. Needless to say, there's many problems out there. Goodness knows with the Harvey Weinstein scandal and everything that's been going on with that. But in terms of the racial issue, again, it's not perfect, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as it's made out to be. I've just seen someone leave a comment. It was this channel, Film 4 video where it was showing actors basically discussing acting and discussing sort of challenges that they've had and advice for people who want to be actors and so on. Now, it is true that most of the people featured were white actors, but there was a comment underneath, and it was from this Asian girl who said, "As an Asian female, it's very obvious that that most actors are visibly Caucasian," and she got into this thing about opportunity. Now, I have to say, her comment was relatively moderate compared to some that I've seen, but there's an inherent contradiction in something that she was saying. And she was saying that where Asians are represented, they tend to get stereotypical roles, whatever that means. Um, and she wants a situation where a director will offer an Asian a leading role. Well, firstly, the insinuation is that white actors get roles on a plate. I totally understand that any actor would want to be versatile. They would want to take as many roles as possible. And I do understand that if you're an actor and you're constantly getting similar sort of roles, it would at some point start to get frustrating. I totally understand that. What I disagree with is that it must be because of racism or there's some sort of racial dynamic to it. There's plenty of white actors who also get stuck with certain roles or get typecast, and some of them are very talented. One example is the British actor Rowan Atkinson. He is famous for, in particular, his role as Mr. Bean. He mostly does comedy roles. In the UK, he was also known for a series called Blackadder, but he once said that the Mr. Bean role, he absolutely gets typecast with that because he's no longer known as Rowan Atkinson. I actually saw a video clip of Mr. Bean plays another character, so it's almost like Mr. Bean has replaced his actual name, Rowan Atkinson. And he said that whilst the role had been successful for him, it had somewhat led him to being typecast as always that that character of Mr. Bean. And obviously, Mr. Bean was hugely successful, and he recognised that. But the point I'm making is this argument that white actors can be versatile because they're white. I don't think it's true. I think there's plenty of white actors, and that's only one example. There's many, many others of white actors who are stuck with certain roles, maybe because they have a certain accent, maybe a certain appearance. I can think of white actors that always get cast as Cockney gangsters, or they always get gritty sort of crime roles. But from their perspective, maybe it pays the bills. Maybe that's why they don't complain about it. I do think it's a little bit rich to, if you're given roles and you get given large salaries for it, to then complain about that. And I know not all actors are well off. I know that actors genuinely do struggle at a lower level, but I do find it a little galling when I find any actor, whether they're white, black, or Asian, at a higher level, complaining about lack of opportunity. If you have a black actor or an Asian actor who is actually getting some prominent roles and they're famous and they're on six figures, as far as I'm concerned, they've got no right to complain. And if they're saying there's a problem with opportunity, their own experience contradicts that. I'm not for a second saying that there is never any racial bias. I'm not for a second saying that ethnic minority actors don't suffer disappointments. I'm sure they do. I just don't think it is always about race. There's also an inherent contradiction because I've heard it said this thing about, oh well, if we do get roles, we're typecast. But here's the thing: you say that you don't want to do those roles, but if a white actor then does them, because someone has to do them, right? Then there'll be controversies over yellowface. So I don't think you can complain about yellowface being racist on one hand if you're saying, oh, I'm too good for those roles. Acting is acting. If you're given a role, well, put it this way, if I was an actor, I would know that I would have to work my way up. You can't just demand any role that you want. So I think there's a little bit of self pity coming into this. And I'm not saying that I don't want to be misunderstood here. I'm not saying that people don't work hard. I'm not saying that they don't try, but I don't think you can complain about Asian characters being taken up by Asians. I mean, who else is supposed to do them? If you're a director and you have a script and one of the characters happens to be Asian, and it happens to be, I don't know, a Chinese immigrant or a kung fu expert or whatever. So what if it's filled by an Asian person? Because that's, if it was a white person, you'd say it's cultural appropriation. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. That's how I see it. Basically, I just think the world of acting in general has become way too politicized. And it isn't just about race. Sexism is another one. Um, I really cringe when I see multimillionaire actresses complaining because they're not quite as rich as multimillionaire actors. These people live in a bubble and they need to understand that to the rest of us, to us mere mortals, it, it just comes across as just like that, living in a bubble. Um, I am not saying that the industry is perfect, and I'm not saying that can't be improvements made. If I was a director, I would look for a diverse cast, not for politically correct reasons, but because the sort of scripts that I would be interested in would be diverse sort of stories. That's the only reason, and I would want actors that reflect those roles. But I don't think you can, on one hand, complain about lack of opportunities if you're saying white people shouldn't take those roles. As for white people dominating it, well, the fact of the matter is the United States is still a majority white country. I'm aware that in some states that's not the situation, but it's still a majority white country. And so if you want a quota with every single film, it's just not going to happen. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you go to Nigeria, you're going to find the vast majority of actors are black. If you go to India, you're going to find the vast majority of actors are Indian. Um, no one talks about, oh, where are the white actors in Bollywood? No one talks about where are the non-Nigerian actors in Nollywood. So why is there this unique onus on Hollywood to be diverse? I think it kind of irritates me. I do think there should be diversity in the world of acting. Of course there should. But I don't like the way this is going, where it's like every single thing must be because of racism. Maybe you failed an audition simply because the producer was looking for someone slightly different in that role. You know, don't automatically assume, oh, it's because I'm Asian. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's nothing to do with that. Maybe it is, you know. I'm not saying that there is never any possibility of racial bias. There shouldn't be if that is the case. But I do think this is hugely overblown. Now, people might say, "Oh, but you haven't experienced what we've experienced." Okay, fair enough. But I'm I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm someone who enjoys film. I'm the person who pays to go to see the films, and it's people like me, millions of us, who go to watch films and keep your careers afloat by going to watch the films that you're in. So I don't think, just I think people should be very careful about complaining too much, because it then looks like they feel that they're entitled, like this entitled mindset, like I should get this because I'm Asian. No, you should get it because you're a good actor or not. So that's my take. I'm not trying to offend anyone with this video, but I do feel quite frustrated because, like I say, people go to the cinema to escape. And I think a lot of people are fed up with this world being politicized, and every single thing must be because of racism or sexism or something else. It gets boring and it gets tedious. And I totally understand that actors want to get as many opportunities as possible, but you can't have it both ways. You can't on one hand complain about lack of opportunity and then simultaneously say it's racism if a white actor takes a role that you don't want to take.